been reading some books about polar bears, so I thought it might be fun for us to make a little polar bear craft. This is a listen, see, and do kind of project. So when you do a project, I feel like my kitty's very excited. You may have heard her making noise in the background. She's coming to learn how to make a polar bear craft. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you have the right materials. You're going to need a piece of blue paper. This one we're not going to cut because this is where we're going to put our polar bear. We're going to glue our polar bear down on this piece of paper. And then you also need, obviously, some white paper for our polar bear. You're going to need a little bit of blue paper. I have a big piece of light blue paper. You don't need this much. You only need it for a little tiny bit of the project. And you also need a piece of black paper. Again, you don't need this much black paper. I just happen to have a full sheet, and you only need a little tiny bit for this project. You also need scissors because it's just cut and glue. So you're going to cut following my directions, and then you're going to get to glue it down on your paper. And here's my little polar bear that's going to watch us do this project. So the first step that you're going to do is take your white paper, and if you want to, you're going to use about half of it. You want to save some at the top or the bottom for the ears that you're going to need. So the first thing we're going to do is make the polar bear's face or head. And the way we do that is you start with the bottom. I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to cut my paper in the shape of an upside down U, the shape of a U. Now if you want to draw it, you can draw it. If you don't want to draw it and you just want to cut, that's fine too. So I'm holding my paper like this. I'm going to go about halfway, and then I'm going to turn it, start turning. So then it's going to be in the shape of a U, and I'll have extra paper left over for the ears. And I want to make it kind of wide because I want my polar bear to take up the paper where I'm going to glue it. So it'll be mostly polar bear and not mostly blue paper. So here's the shape, and it's going to go like this. So this will be the top of his head, and this part will go at the bottom. So we're going to glue that down. I'm going to put some glue on the back of my white paper that I just cut, and I'm going to glue it, stick it down at the bottom of the blue piece, and I will show you. So here it is with the glue on the back. Stick that down at the bottom. I'm lining it up at the bottom, so then I have room for like the ears and the rest of my polar bear at the top. If you need to pause the video here and finish that step, you can go right ahead and pause it, take your time, and come back when you are ready for the next step. So the next part is the ears. We're going to take the rest of that white paper that we just used, and we're going to make a circle. The biggest kind of circle that you can make on what you have left, because those are going to be part of his ears. I am not good at drawing just a flat circle, just a normal like straight circle. So I found something round that I thought would be about the right size. It's a lid to a little container in my kitchen. So search around your house and see if you can find something you can trace, or you can just draw a big circle that will be part of the ears. So I'm going to have a kitten right behind me in my chair. I'm going to trace that little corner. I've got just enough white paper left for this circle. I'll show you. So I kind of crammed it in the corner, so if I need more white paper, I have extra to use if I want to add some other features. So there's the circle. So then we're going to cut that out, but I'm going to show you a little trick because we are actually going to make 2 ears out of this one circle. So if you cut out your circle, doop-de-doop, doop-de-doop, cut, cut, cut. So you could do 2 circles for big ears. I'm going to take a shortcut, and I'm going to fold my circle in half like this because I'm only going to use half of the circle for the ears. So I folded it in half so they'll be equal sizes, and then I'm going to cut right along that line where I just folded. Doop, doop. Now I have 2 half circles that can be used for the ears. And I'm going to glue those to the top of the head that I just glued down on my blue paper. Again, I got my glue stick. I put the glue around the edges, and I'm going to stick it down. on the corner like this. Now again, you're welcome to pause the video and do this, but we got to add the other ear here. So do that with the other piece. My cats are being very noisy today, getting into all sorts of stuff. It's like they know when the video has started and they want to come be noisy. So it's not perfect, but those are going to be his ears. Okay, so there's our polar bear's ears. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make the inside of his ears. So we need something that's a little bit smaller. The inside of his ears are going to be black. This is where you need the black paper. And you need something that's a little bit smaller than the circles that you just cut, because that's going to be like the lining for his ears, like the inside part of his ears. So I'm going to try to find something that's a little bit smaller that I can trace, or I could just trace it on my black paper and just cut it smaller. That would work too. So maybe I'll just do that. It's going to be a little bit harder to see though because it's on black. What can you use if you only have black paper? You could draw on it with a white crayon. So I'm just going to try my best right now to trace it, and maybe I can see a little bit of the pencil, and I'm just going to cut it smaller so I know it's kind of the same shape. And I can kind of see it. It's a little bit shiny. I'm not sure if you can see that in the video, but I can see a little bit of the pencil. So I'm just going to cut it so it's a little bit smaller. And I think the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to cut out my circle first. And again, anytime you want to pause the video to do this step or do whatever step you're on, you can always pause it and then start it back when you're ready. So I've cut out my circle for the inside of his ears. I'm going to fold it, but before I cut the line in the middle, I'm just going to trim around the outside of this to make it so it's a little bit smaller, but I know it'll fit inside of the ears that we already glued down. See how I'm doing that right there? It's a little bit smaller. It's not perfect, but so now I'm going to open it up. I'm going to cut it in the middle just like I did before. Just like this. And we'll glue that down. I always glue on the paper that I'm actually sticking down so that I don't get glue stick marks on my paper. I'll show you where these go. So that's the inside of his ears, like that. Now our polar bear needs the area around his mouth, like his nose. And again, this time we're going to use the light blue paper. So again, we need this one, we need a big circle. Well, save your black paper because you're going to use a little bit of that for the nose too. So I'm going to use my same size circle that I used before, and I'm going to trace that onto my light blue paper. And again, feel free to pause the video if you need more time. So I'm going to cut this out for his nose and mouth. So now I have a big light blue circle. I'm going to glue that down kind of towards the bottom. So this is going to be where his nose and mouth are. I'm not going to go completely to the bottom. I'm going to leave a little bit of space underneath. So I get my glue stick. You just need a little bit. Make sure you don't push your glue stick all the way up to the top. Okay, so this is going down right here. So then we're going to leave room for his eyes up here. His or her eyes, if you're making a girl polar bear. Now the next thing you have to do is cut out just a little mouth, a little nose, a black nose from the black paper that you were using. So whatever paper you have left. And again, this can be a circle, but it doesn't have to be perfect. I think my polar bear here, his nose kind of looks like a triangle. It's kind of triangular shape. So his nose doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not even going to trace anything. I'm just going to try to cut one out on my own. And you know what? If I don't like it, I'll just try again. And if you cut it out big enough, You might be able to cut it smaller if you need it to be smaller. So here's the part I'm going to use. It's more like an oval. See my oval? And I'm going to glue that down right in the middle of the blue piece that we put down. Kind of towards the top, but in the middle. So I'm going to leave room for his mouth. See how he's coming along? So we have his ears, his mouth and nose area. Now you get to draw the mouth part. I forgot that you need a little Sharpie or a black marker or a crayon or something that you have nearby. So I'm going to use this and draw one line that comes down and looks kind of like a J, and then another line right next to it that looks like a J going to the other side. So it makes his mouth like that. See if you can draw those shapes. All right, the last part that we need for our polar bear is eyes. Now, Google eyes are a lot of fun. If you don't have Google eyes, it's okay. You don't have to have Google eyes. I'm going to draw them with a Sharpie because I don't have any Google eyes at my house. So I'm going to just draw with my same marker 2 eyes for my polar bear. I've learned a little trick from watching Art for Kids Hub. If you're not familiar with that, you should check it out sometime because they have a really cool website with lots of art projects. And he shows us how to draw the eyes, where you add extra little circles to make it look like the reflections in the eyes. So it looks like a real polar bear. And then you color in the rest of the circle. So I'm going to do that real quick. But if you have Google Eyes and you want to use that, feel free. And if you want to add your own little features like eyelashes, if you're doing a girl or you want to add some other characteristics, you can certainly do that too. But this is kind of a sweet, simple little project to make a little polar bear, do a little polar bear fun. I'll show you, my Sharpie's kind of running out, so it's not super great. But here is my polar bear. Now we know the polar bear lives in the Arctic where it's cold and snowy, and if you want to really have fun with this, you can add some snowflakes to it. You can use Q-tips and white paint and make little white dots around the outside so it looks like snowflakes, or whatever else that you want to do. But this is just a fun polar bear project. I hope that you enjoyed making this, and I can't wait to see your finished creations.